my gosh, it is so freaking cold outside. Hey, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? My name is Michael Sahno, and welcome to the Sea and Land Fitness Podcast, the podcast of professional tactical fitness. This podcast is, of course, brought to you by Sea and Land Fitness, the home of professional tactical fitness. And so head on over to www.sandlfit.com. That's www.sandlfit, and check out the brand new t-shirts we've got. This one's the Burn the Ships. Hope you dig that one. And this one is the Live in It. Microphone's going everywhere. Surf inspired t-shirt. So, welcome to the show. This podcast is also brought to you by 511 Tactical, makers of some of the best tactical fitness equipment on the planet. Tactical equipment and tactical fitness equipment. I use their stuff. Used it on Wednesday to do a ice cold ruck march. We're also brought to you by Thorne Supplements, makers of some of the best supplements on the planet. Who else are we brought to you by? RDX Sports, makers of some of the best combat sports equipment on the planet. I'll go into all of those, give you some codes at the end if you stick around. But in this, and I'm umming myself to death right now. Sorry about that. Hey, how's everyone doing? And I just did it again. So the trick is, when you get caught with the bug, is you breathe in instead of saying I don't know if you knew that. And if you'll notice, if you're watching this, or you might even be able to hear it on the microphone, I am breathing in so that I don't say Oh, man, I hate that. Anyways, before we get started, I'm going to have a sip of coffee. Peter Madeira, this is for you. And the subject of today's podcast is freezing my stones off, because last night it was 12 degrees. 12 frickin' degrees. So I work out in my garage. I have a gym in my garage. When COVID came around, I bought all this really great equipment, and I have an entire gym in my barn, my garage in the back. It's a barn, and I love it. I live for getting outside. I love working out outside. Working out outside is, for me, the greatest thing. If you have an opportunity to work outside, if you have an opportunity to work out outside, if you have an opportunity to go for a run, all of that, I highly recommend you do it. There's something freeing about working out underneath an open sky or out in the elements, so to speak. Even when it's hot, I love working out when it's crazy hot. Now, that being said, when I worked out last night, I did my arms workout, biceps, triceps. It was 20 freaking degrees outside. I had a sweatshirt. I had a quarter zip thingy pullover, a t-shirt, all that. And it was, once you get going, it's fine. But in the beginning, when you get out there, it's horrendous. And I am going to tell you I don't want to hear anything. Well, yeah, throw it in the comments. I don't care because I actually do this, and you who are going to comment either don't work out or work out in a very warm gym. I go out there in my Crocs because I was in the infantry and I've worn Crocs to kind of not heal my feet, but relieve my feet from all of the pain of ruck marching and road marching and all that stuff. So I've been wearing Crocs forever, and Crocs are just something I do. I also, when it gets really warm out, I work out in flip flops, bare feet. It's not uncommon for me to do squats with bare feet on, nothing on my feet. So it was a logical transition for me to go to Crocs when I had to put on socks. So, I hate having to wear socks, whatever. Not a big deal. I am just this podcast. This episode is the Mike Sahno is bitching podcast, apparently. So 20 degrees. I'm outside in my Crocs. I'm outside all bundled up. I'm doing it. I take off my coat. I go and I do it. And I love it. I complain about the cold because I really don't like my body's reaction to the cold. My body's reaction as I've gotten older, being out in the cold has been more difficult, at times painful, but whatevs, no big deal. But I do a lot of things in order, and it's funny because this is going to be a Venn diagram of sports psychology and exercise physiology. So on the exercise physiology side of it, what do you have to do in order to make sure that you can work out successfully, get benefit from working out outside? So a couple of things that come from being outside is it is an added stressor. Okay. So one of the things that you want to do, especially if you're in, let's say, professional tactical fitness, okay, military fitness, what do you want to do? You want to be ready for anything. Okay. Let's say I like to scuba dive. Okay. So being out and working out in the cold, my body is over time going to become acclimated. There will also be a neurological response to that. Okay. A very significant neurological response where cold doesn't affect me as much as it could. And I mentioned diving. So diving, thermic, is it thermic injuries, heat or cold injuries, when diving can be a serious issue. So let's say you're scuba diving, you're in a wetsuit and you overheat. You can't really get rid of that sweat. It goes right into it. Or let's say you're scuba diving and you go through a thermocline layer and it gets colder as you go lower, as you go deeper. Is your body physically prepared for something like that? Let's say you're doing mountain warfare or cold weather operations. So I went to a school up at Fort Ethan Allen in Vermont, just north of Burlington, Vermont, when I was in the Army. And it was in the middle of the summer and it was balls hot. It was so hot, not even funny. But they have a winter phase to their mountain warfare school. And if you're not acclimated to being outside, being in the elements, being in the cold, you're going to suffer. It's going to be difficult for you. I was actually talking to my old squad leader, and we were talking about this yesterday. Hold on. Another sip of coffee to warm my bones. And we were talking about the cold, and we were talking about, waking up in the morning, getting out of our hooch, or little like lean-to type of thing that you would make with ponchos. And your sleeping bag would be under it if you got the opportunity to unroll your sleeping bag. But that we were talking about, the worst thing is when you get out, you get all dressed, and then you step in mud in your socks. And you're like, oh my God, this is the worst. But then you realize that your fresh pair of socks is at the bottom of your rucksack on the other side of your sleeping bag. So hopefully you don't fill up your sleeping bag with mud. Horrible things to think about, but it just comes with being in the military. Sometimes you get uncomfortable, but again, being prepared, being physically prepared, being physiologically prepared. Now there's another dynamic, like I was telling you, and it's literally goes right into my bitching about being cold. So it's the mental game of freezing, of just being so cold. It sucks. It's horrible. It's the worst. But you can acclimate to that. You can, I mean, think about it. You've got senior citizens who go and do cold plunges in rivers, in lakes, and all that stuff. It can be invigorating. There's this entire, if you're Joe Rogan popularized the cold box, I think it was, where you go and you get in this box and your head's out of it and it cools you down and everything like that. And then the cardiovascular benefits of that. But your first time's always going to suck. You're going to have to acclimate to it. You're going to have to get used to it. Now, something that's very important, very, very, very important, and it's to prevent injury, is to ensure that you do some type of warm-up. Am I guilty of not doing a warm-up? Absolutely. So it's honestly, and that's the toughest part, is you don't want to do the warm-up out there in the cold. But there is a way that you can kind of prime this, so to speak. So what you would do is, let's say before you're going to go outside or into the cold environment where you're going to be, maybe you have a garage that's attached to your house, but there's no heat in the garage and it's like 10 degrees, 20 degrees, 30 degrees out there. While you're in the house, just warm up, maybe do some, and it doesn't have to be regimented. And that's the crazy part. Have you ever seen, and this is actually a really great example, have you ever seen runners at the Olympics and they're about to go and they do that big arm swing thing and they slap their legs and they, run in place for, 2 or 3 seconds? That's a warm up. And that might be enough. You would have to gauge it. But the way to find out if it's enough is you do it and then do a light load, like maybe 1 to 2 reps, 3 to 4 reps of half of what you would normally lift, curling or squatting while you're outside. But it's important to, make sure your body's warmed up, because your tendons are fragile. Okay. And your tendons you'll have some type of tendon injury because on top of that, the cold's going to make it tighten up. The cold's going to make it contract. So you want to make sure that you have some type of warm up. And there are going to be people who tell you, oh, you can't warm up in the house and then go outside. So that's garbage. And I'm going to tell you why it's garbage, because your muscles are inside a meat sack, which is your skin. And your tendons aren't going to, you know what I mean? They're not going to get all of a sudden, if you warm up inside and then step outside, you've got a good 10 to 15 minute window before you tighten all up. Will there be an initial oh shit type of contraction from going outside? Probably, but your muscles will be warmed up. So don't listen to that's garbage. You gotta warm up where you're in the temperature that it's baseless. It's not true. Now what do I do? So hold on, I'm gonna have another sip of coffee. I think I've mentioned this before, but yammering on this microphone makes your mouth go dry and your and you get scratchy. So it's why when they do interviews and stuff, there's water on the table and stuff like that. So that I'm gonna have another sip. Hold on. I might as well just sit here and eat grilled cheese, and you guys can listen and watch. Do some ASMR. You guys can listen and watch me eat grilled cheese. The amount of slurping I'm doing as I drink this coffee. Anyways, what I was saying was, so what do I do? How do I make it successful? Because I'm pretty sure I'm going to commit to this entire winter, no matter what the weather is. I've got all the cold weather and foul weather gear. I'm going to commit to an outside workout. Because this spring I want to do some new videos, new exercise videos on mobility and stuff like that. And I want to look, it's vanity. I'm totally aware. I want to look better. I want to slim down a little bit. And I think working out, increasing my workload, so to speak, on my workouts, will do that. And I'm going to add the added stressor of doing it out all winter, outside. We'll see how this goes. We'll see how committed I am. But just to let you know, so I'm going to outline what I do for the workout. So right now I have a dysfunction in my left hip. So years ago, actually, ironically, ruck marching, I tore my meniscus. That's a little piece of cartilage in your knee. Or not a little, it's a piece of cartilage in your knee. I tore it on my left knee and I tore it on my right knee. And my left knee healed. Okay, fine. My right knee healed after I got it done. That surgery was after my left knee. And it healed in a way that I was like, oh, crap. I don't think my left knee healed right. So I think I've said this in another episode. Corrective exercise. Yeah. So I went down to tie my shoe and my knee cocked out to the left real far. And I had never tied my shoe this sounds ridiculous, in the same place that I tied it before. So I put my foot up on the tire of my Jeep and went to tie it, and I tied my left, and I was like, shit balls, I can't reach it. And it was my knee was in such a weird position that I couldn't figure out what was going on. So I did some, long story short, I did some investigation and found what the problem was, and wound up coming up with a mobility plan and a strengthening plan to right that. Just so happens that whole plan happened at the end of October. So it started getting cold. But it was fine. It was manageable. So prior to that, I was squatting, doing some heavy lifts, what was I doing? Barbell back squat, barbell front squat, a couple of other really heavy, good mornings. What else? Romanian deadlifts. And I knew that I needed to do something a little more mobility focused. So I went into that and I started doing that. Started doing the mobility work to reconstruct the engagement pattern that I needed so that my left leg and hip, ironically, would be functional again in the correct way. So it started to get cold. I did that on Tuesdays and Fridays, and I did what did I do on Mondays? A chest workout, a nice, good chest workout, and on Thursdays, an arms workout, biceps, triceps. And then in the middle, I would do if you look on the wall behind me, if you're watching this, there's all these bands, and that's my shoulder reconstruction uh mobility stuff, which I'm going to do a video on that too. I am hopping all over the place. This is like a game of Twister, a verbal twister. Long story short, I set up a really nice workout schedule where Mondays I do chest, Tuesdays I do leg and hip mobility. Wednesdays I do a 1 mile weighted ruck march. Thursdays I do biceps, triceps, and Fridays I do another mobility session, hips and knee mobility session. And then of course on Wednesday I just told you I do that shoulder mobility workout, which is a real shoulder workout. It's insane. And it's a really, really, really fun winter weather workout. Maybe that's what I'm going to do. I'll put that program up, and maybe a couple of you can follow along and get outside and do it. I also have this Echo bike behind me, and I've been on that. Right now I'm on that for 15 minutes. Like first thing in the morning, I try to get 15 minutes in at least 2 days a week. And I want to get that up to 30. And what I do is I'll put a podcast or the news or something on, and then and that gives me, what do you call it? Nice low intensity, steady state aerobics, just to keep the blood flowing, helps things out. But yeah, so my goal is to keep this program going all the way until the spring. And once I am muscularly at a point reconstruction wise with my leg and hip, once the spring hits, I'm already outside, but I'll be outside in better weather, and we'll just cruise on into the heavier stuff like the back squats and front squats and stuff like that. I don't know. I hope this episode was helpful. It's basically me complaining about the position that I put myself in, which doesn't really, does that even help? My point of bringing this up is to tell you that you can get through this. There are challenges out there that you can put before yourself that you'll be able to look back on and go, yeah, I did that. I did that all winter. Or, yeah, I'm never doing that again. That's garbage. But this winter, that's my goal. That's one of my big goals. And I'm going to publicize it by putting it up in this podcast. But yeah, if any of you want to try it out, reach out to me. And I'll see, maybe next week, I'll work on getting it together, and in the next week or 2 weeks, I can get it up on the website, and then just give you a rough do legs. And it's going to be a bland workout. I'm not going to be giving you exercises. You could pick whatever you want, but I want you, to say, hey, I'm going to go outside. I'm going to do 3 to 6 exercises each time. Because that's the other thing. I am not doing high reps. I'm doing low reps, higher weight while I'm out there. Just because I don't want to be out there too long. I use a timer when I workout. And that's actually, maybe that's something I'm going to talk about next podcast episode, about using a timer, because what I do is I have 1 minute rest between each set, and between each exercise I have 2 minutes, and then boom, we're on to the next thing. Gotta go. So all right, yeah, so hopefully this helps you. Hopefully you're motivated to do stupid stuff like I do. And it's not stupid, it's fun working out. I mean, think about it. For thousands, hundreds of thousands of years, we were, wearing elk skins and bear skins and walking around out in the winter weather. During the Ice Age, we crossed from Asia over to North America. That feels kind of like a workout. People talking about how tough they are doing Ironman. Do that. So, yeah, it's the least I can do, right? So, all right, that's all I got. That is all I've got for this episode. Again, this podcast is brought to you by Sea and Land Fitness. So head on over to www.sandlfit.com. That's www.sandlfit.com. Check out all of the new shirts that we've got. Dude, I love designing this stuff. I love making this stuff. I just dropped a new one. I think I said it. Davy Jones lifts weights, and I'm not going to tell you what it looks like. You got to go to the website and check it out. And yeah, so check it out. Check out the programs. As I said, I'm going to work on getting just kind of an outline of a winter program, a winter workout program that you can do to get yourself out there in the cold. And yeah, head on over, pick up what we got. We got new hats coming. We have new designs for hats coming. A lot of fun stuff. So check it out. Again, we are also brought to you by 511 Tactical. So that ruck march on Wednesdays, I'm wearing my 511 Tech vest with weight plates in it. So it's not just, oh, you went and walked a mile. No, I went and walked a mile in the cold with that vest on. So to you, okay? Yeah, they make great stuff. They've got the sandbags that we use, all kinds of great stuff. So go and check it out. Links in the description below. As I said, we're also brought to you by Thorne Supplements. Love those guys. I just got a new batch from them did I get creatine? I got I got my vitamins, I got my curcumin, a bunch of stuff that I use. And I use it daily. Makes my body feel better, which makes my life better. So head on over to the link in the description, which will take you to, are you ready for this? A 10% off dispensary that I run within the site. If there's anything on there that you want that's not in there, let me know. I'll put it in. And again, everything in there is 10% off. Finally, we're brought to you by RDX Sports. I use their boxing gloves for Muay Thai. I use their, focus pad mitts for exercise. My son and I use their protective gear when we're wailing on each other. They make great stuff. It's all priced very well. Some of it I keep in the store, like the boxing gloves and the focus pad mitts, and it's a really competitive price. I keep pretty much the same prices at Amazon. So if you could help support my business, that'd be awesome. But if you want to go over there and it's something I don't carry, I have a 10% discount code in the description below, and you can use that during checkout. So there you go. All right, that's all I've got for you guys. This is Honey Badger Actual. All you honey badgers out.